You know what, Howard?
Yes, Sean.
Hosting a show about crime has taken me to a lot of places, including some you might want to avoid. So let's talk about Crime in Place, the iPhone app that reports FBI crime rates for any spot in the country. You just put in a location and the type of crime you're concerned with. Instantly, you know where you'll stand and where you don't want to. Do yourself and your family a favor. Go to crimeandplace.com for your free download of Crime in Place. Stay aware, stay safe.
That's a good app for people to have.
That is. It's a great one. And I do travel a lot. Very, very helpful. And that's a lovely, lovely shirt and hat you have
this?
on.
Hey, look. See this? This has a EKG rhythm with a heart in it. It's not a real one. If you go to the hospital, it's not. It doesn't exist. Like, we don't see that.
We don't see that. Well, I've got the good old American flag on mine, and these both come from State Patriot. So make a statement and wear the flag proud like Howard and I are doing. State Patriot is a clothing and apparel company on a mission to honor our nation and its heroes. While their Blue Line dry fit shirts with UPF 50 sun protectant have won my heart, State Patriot also offers a variety of patriotic gear designed to support all first responders and our military. Go check them out on Facebook and Instagram at State Patriot, or visit www.statepatriot.com and use promo code STICKS, that's STICKS, for 20% off your purchase. And they sent us a fantastic package of a bunch of shirts, hats, patches, stickers. So for any of our listeners out there, whether you are in the military or first responder, nursing, fireman, police, any of that stuff, or you're a big supporter of them, I encourage you to go to the website. Seriously, great product, great company.
Yeah, and the other thing is too is they make sunscreen shirts, and as gingers, we
need them.
We really appreciate that.
You need to double them up.
Yeah, they get 100 SPF with that. If I wear 2, it'd be a little hot, but we can do that. Hey, Sean.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Hey, we got a pretty interesting guest today. We talk about people who have done lots of things.
Correct.
We talk about people who are in. Have been in the criminal system, who are picked up in the criminal system. We also talk to police officers, talk to judges. We do that. Today we're talking to a lady who was sentenced to 165 years in prison.
So is she talking to us from the cell?
No, she's not. She was sentenced to 165 years. They call it I think I refer to it as stacking charges. She ended up
stacking.
Yeah. She ends up getting 10 years.
Does she have a dog in her cell with her? I just heard a dog bark.
She does. All the dogs are in her cell. 3 dogs. But today we have Heather Engel. She's going to talk to us. She is coming to us from Indiana. Is that correct?
East Tennessee.
East Tennessee. Isn't that close to Indiana?
They're close to each other. He was close.
Yeah, pretty close. So glad to have you today. Hey, one of the things we like to do on here is we like to have a cocktail. And you got to pick the cocktail, and you told us that earlier. And what was the cocktail you picked and told us earlier?
I picked Titos vodka and cranberry.
Yeah, but what are we drinking?
Wine.
Yeah, so we're drinking Titos.
We got Titos and Crown here. So
here's to you. Cheers.
It's red, though.
Being on.
It is red. Yeah, it's close.
Ooh, I made those. Those are pretty.
That's not bad.
They're not too bad. So, Heather, let's get into it. When we tell people, the overwhelming question when you say someone's been to prison, everybody goes, what'd you go for?
What'd you go for, yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what everybody asks, right?
Yes. Yes. So I went for possession with intent to deliver meth.
How much?
I had a large enough amount. We had about 6-7 ounces on us that we were caught with.
Okay.
But I was brought up on conspiracy and ties to, I don't know if you guys have ever heard the theory, like ghost dope. I don't want to say that's what applied, but it was a whole ring of people, more or less, that got taken down at once, and it was kind of 6 ounces. Yeah, it was 6 ounces was like.
Yeah, it was a small amount.
Been on federal.
Yeah, so it was a federal case.
Mine was not. Thank God. Thank God.
Yeah. So
if it had been a federal case,
it sounds like it was
in prison.
It sounds like it was one of these deals where a conspiracy case, so a lot of different people get picked up, and kind of regardless if you're just a middleman running dope for somebody, you're catching the case kind of like the guy at the top. Everybody kind of gets lumped in together. Is that what happened?
Yep.
So
Yes,
what?
it did.
6 ounces? That's not. I mean, dollar wise, how much is that?
Oh gosh, it's been so long. 15,000 dollars.
Oh, so it's some money. Okay, I thought like 6 ounces was like, I don't know, $400.
It's not like weed. Like,
Well, and it does. And Heather, what year was this that this happened?
2014.
Okay, so it wasn't too long ago. So I know here in Tulsa, and the prices do vary for drugs across the country. Obviously, our methamphetamine, it is what it is. It typically comes in from Mexico. So the closer you are to Mexico, the cheaper it is. I mean, there's more risk for taking it further north to places like Tennessee, Indiana, and so forth. And so back in like 2010, like a pound of meth or ice, nobody was making it at that point. It was all being brought in, and it was going for in Tulsa like $10,000 or $11,000 a pound.
Oh,
But now it is so cheap. I mean, it's down. These guys are getting it for like $2,000.
huh.
I mean, it's that cheap.
For a
Like
pound.
a pound. Yeah, it's super super cheap. And obviously, Hispanic to Hispanic, sales that it's cheaper. A white guy's going to pay a little bit more. That's just the way it
It's
is on
called
the
the
street.
gringo tax.
There's a nice little tax
For
depending on
real.
the race. It changes. It really does. I mean, there's different prices, and that's just how it is.
All right, so Heather,
I caught,
tell us how you got busted.
so my crime actually happened in Iowa. That's where I'm from. I live in Tennessee now, but everything happened in Iowa. It started, I don't know, like when everything happened, like I was partying on the weekends, just like everybody else that, was 22 years old. We, somehow, like I had broken up with my boyfriend at the time, and I had met this other guy, and he had just gotten divorced, and she was kind of strict in their marriage. I don't know. Like we both just kind of had gotten out of relationships and met up, and we just both went kind of wild. Like I don't know how else to explain it. We both just like, right, you don't care what I do, I don't care what you do, and it just like it. Before you knew it, it was 5-6 years together, and we'd been running down towards the border and coming back. Just got involved with people that are involved with the cartel, got involved with cartel members. I remember when I realized I was in too deep. I remember being with a friend who had gone to Vegas and was picking up a lot, like a lot. And he was, discussing like some of his experience, like in a warehouse in Vegas. And it dawned on me right then and there, like I was surrounded like by by it, like pretty, not just you're purchasing $20 here and there. I mean, it was to the point we were hiding it in our vehicles. We had magnetic contraptions for under the car. We had holes drilled out in cars to place things. I had a scarf, and it was all the people still running dope, I'm sure, are not going to like me telling my secrets, but I had this like scarf. It was kind of the way it was knitted, had a hole through the middle. And I used to take these balls of dope like this and tie them into the scarf and wear the scarf around my neck in the wintertime. We got pulled over once, and I had that on.
Just wearing it.
You got to check scarves now.
Wearing it. I'm serious. Like there was a lot, like just a lot of crazy shit that happened. Like now looking back on it, I think like I didn't actually get away with wearing it. I think we were already being watched, and we were being told to let go. Like let them go. You know what I mean? Like let, because there was quite a few times where we got away with shit. I remember we got pulled over one time, and we had like I don't know, it wasn't that much, it was probably like this, and I had a big gulp McDonald's type cup, like the super size me cup. We got pulled over, and my boyfriend didn't have a license, go figure, because that's just the kind of people we were.
Sure.
And car didn't have insurance, and it got towed. And I remember putting that in the cup, and the cop's like, all right, everybody get out of the car, like so on and so forth. And I asked the cop, I said, he's like, you guys are gonna have to get a ride. I said, that's fine. I said, we just ran through McDonald's. Can I at least get my food and my drink? He was like, yeah. The cop picks up the cup and hands it to me.
Wow.
Do you do stuff like that?
Man, I like to think that I've always taken a look in every single thing I hand to anybody. I mean, I mean that because I'm not necessarily the dope, but I'm worried about a knife or a gun
Right.
or anything. That's what I always worry about before I pass something to somebody.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But I've worked with a lot of cops. We're not the smartest. There's a bunch of guys that are not the brightest, and there's a lot of guys that listen. They don't think like that. They're not out there looking for dope, and so to them, they're just kind of oblivious. They're just like, okay, whatever.
And I'm telling you what, if I could do it, I legally can't. If I could be a cop in a heartbeat, and I don't care who comes for me after I say this, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I would do it in a heartbeat.
Well, so how
I'd
were
be
you
a hard
apprehended?
ass too. Huh?
How were you apprehended?
They kicked in our door.
Oh,
So my boyfriend and I, I finally got to the point where I was done with the relationship. It was a horrible, toxic relationship. That's not what this is about. He was finally moving out. The day he was moving out, he was downstairs. They were obviously, the cops have been watching. Mine, it's like the Mid Iowa Narcotics, and I don't know, it's the task force that's in the Midwest. Well, they saw him do something down in the parking lot that warranted them being able just to go, or that's how I understood it. They came upstairs, guns drawn, kicked in the door, pointed a gun at my dog. I'll never forget that. I had at the time I had a German Shepherd, very big, very loud. And I remember like freaking out about that. They didn't even know who I was. They were like, "Do you live here?" And I'm like, "No." I don't think so.
Whose
But,
house is this?
Yeah, that's
Who
just
is this
happened.
guy? Whose dope
Yeah,
is
that's
this?
what I was-
Yeah.
Where am I? But they didn't even know who I was. And there are times where I am like, if I had just not been so fucking done with that life, like, I don't know. I don't know if I would have done that differently, but I just remember I remember telling them everything. I was like, yes, I'm involved. This is where it's at. Cause I was done. Like, I had lost everything at that point in my life. I was miserable. It was horrible. It was a horrible experience.
Were you using?
Horrible, but
I'm
the best day of my life too.
sure. And I guess I'll be personal about it. Were you also using? I'm assuming back then.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you get strung out on it, and all that other stuff you don't think about. So, how old were you when you kind of got into the dope game like that? Well, at least not weed. I'm talking like real drugs.
23.
Okay, so I mean yeah.
When we started running large amounts around, started, dealing with big people. I mean, there was I've had multiple guns pointed at my head. I've had my house doors kicked in. I remember,
Not by the
one
police.
specific, not by the police.
Yeah.
No, the police were nice when they kicked in my door. They were kind to me and treated me respectfully.
Mhm.
These people did not. I have a soft spot in my heart for cops, and a lot of it has to do with the interaction that I had going through all of this. And I catch a lot of bullshit for that when I talk about it, because everybody's like, of all people, you should be like, fuck the police. And I'm like, I'm not though. Like, it's literally somebody's job. And I don't know. I respect the police. Obviously then I didn't, but I do now from, my interactions that I've had.
And
So.
and I appreciate you saying that. Even most of the bad guys we deal with, they, it's a weird mutual respect, I guess. But there have been a lot of guys that I've run into through the years that I've arrested them for drugs, particularly drug users. And, they get cleaned up and they get through the system and things like that. And I've run into them and they've been like, man, it sucked when I got arrested, but my life's turned around. I appreciate you being good to me. And that type of deal. And long as both the people that are getting arrested and the cops don't take this stuff personal, it typically can end like that. It can have that type of, ending just like you're talking about.
So
I remember, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I remember sitting at the table, at my kitchen table with one of the detectives. And at one point, like, we were laughing. And I remember thinking, like, is this fucking real life right now? Like, what are we, like, I don't even know what we were laughing about, but like, we were just like bullshitting. And I'm like, I mean, you literally hold my life in your hands right now, but we're over here laughing about fucking Family Guy or so. I don't even know. Like,
Love that show,
I mean,
by the
the
way.
guy, like, after everything was, Exactly. After everything was settled down, like, the situation was under control. Like one of the guys was over there, petting my dog and then talking to me about German Shepherds. And it was a very human experience. When I ended up getting booked 2 days later because at the time they didn't know who I was. They were like, you're not, my ex had taken all of the blame, which he did me dirty for 7 years. To think that he didn't that one time still kind of blows my mind. I figured he put everything on me anyway. Like, so when they kind of came up and they're like, well, you're not really who we're after. And district attorney came back later and was like, no, she's connected everything. We have it in text messages. We have it, sightings, like with surveillance, like, and they had to bring me in. Like the guy, like the detectives gave me like 2 days to get all my shit together. He was like, don't run, do not run, please do not, do not run. I said, I won't. Like they didn't handcuff me. They let me go to sleep in the back of the car. He woke me up. He went to court for me to get pretrial release, like saying like, she never ran. She never offered to do anything. Like they stood up for me. Like I really have a soft spot for cops. I really do. I always will because of that.
Not nurses like Howard, though.
Yeah, nobody likes nurses.
My sister's a nurse. My sister's a nurse.
So Heather, I'm assuming, you got one hell of a sentence, and we'll get into that. But had you ever been arrested before that?
So yes, but it was kind of same guy, kind of petty bullshit. He had written a check on my account for like $500, and I didn't know about it, and it had bounced. And then when that came back on me, I at the time did not have the common sense, or I loved him too much to like get him in trouble. So I took the blame for that. So that was that. But
so you're saying people that use methamphetamine
Might
do
not be.
shady stuff with money.
so much shady shit.
I was like,
Stories.
the amount of stolen mail that happens, credit card fraud, the printed checks, cash. I mean, you name it. That's all in that world, big time. Like whenever we kick somebody's, their door in or a hotel room, and I imagine you guys probably spend a lot of time in hotels. It's very common in that world. And man, the amount of stuff you would find that these guys were doing was always incredible.
Yes.
I'm not going to say like we did hotel stuff here and there, but like we actually had like a really nice place.
Oh, good.
We had a nice home, we had nice cars. And that was like kind of, other than like my immediate family, people that knew me well, nobody ever really suspected anything that I was doing, except for, like I said, my family, because I just kind of fell off the face of the earth,
Right.
And they saw me more. They saw like the gradual change in my appearance, but on the surface, we were pretty normal. And that's actually one of the things the detective said when he came in. He literally was like, this place is pretty clean. I'm like, why wouldn't it be clean? He was like,
Well, I thought when you're on meth, you clean everything. That was my understanding. That you lose a lot of weight and you clean meth, and that's why housewives, somebody want to do it every once in a while.
Cut the yard at 3:00 in the morning and taking it to
had
the
a lot of
park,
energy.
whatever,
Obviously, I don't understand
I
it.
did tint all the windows in my apartment at 3 a.m. once. So
Hey, I will say this, and I don't mean this to be inappropriate, but back when meth labs were everywhere here in Tulsa, and we were, doing shake and bake. So it was basically before, it was all being brought in from Mexico. We'd run a ton of search warrants, and just talking about guys being up doing all kinds of stuff. Do you know the amount of porn we would find? I'm dead serious.
I can imagine.
I mean, I'm dead serious. And the amount of like sex toys that guys would work on themselves and modify. I mean, she's shaking her head. Our viewers, our people that are listening to the podcast and are watching, she's shaking her head. I mean, literally, you would find boxes and boxes of sex toys that these guys would work on in porn.
Was it like a small engine repair shop, or
literally,
they just taking them in from the community? Oh, ma'am, I can fix that. Don't worry about it. Pull starts bad. Got you.
No, tools. Cable wirings, like cell phone chargers for every cell phone that's ever existed. Batteries. They just kept shit.
Not wrong.
Very common.
He's not wrong.
Very common.
He's not wrong.
That's crazy.
Since we can say anything on here, it is. It's like the one thing about men specifically doing meth is it just makes them fucking horny as fuck. Like they don't, like that was a lot of infidelity in my relationship with this person I've been talking about. And like when I say like he did me wrong, it was just like he could not keep his shit in his pants, and like
He was doing you wrong and doing
before he
somebody
started
else right, evidently.
maybe I don't know.
Okay, so you end up in jail. We'll skip all the court stuff and everything, but I'm sure that was terrifying. Hey, what's it like when you walk into jail that first day?
I was scared. I don't know if I emotionally had processed everything yet. You know, when you're living how I was and just like depleting your body and fucking your brain up and adding these chemicals and depleting these other ones, like you don't have mental capacity. So like it was I don't even know that I understood what had happened really until like a month into being in jail. Then it was like, oh shit, like I fucked up. Oh, I fucked up, you know? And they say it's like 9 months before your brain actually starts to heal from meth, more or less, when you start to get all like your chemical balance back. And it was terrifying. I don't think I cried, but I remember just being numb. My grandma was like my biggest support. She was there. She's my best friend. She was there through all of it. I remember looking over in the courtroom and seeing her sitting there and just the disappointment and the terror on her face. Like that's what I remember the most. It kind of makes me tear up thinking about it. Like that's what I remember the most is her. I don't remember what the judge said. I don't remember, you know, who else was in the courtroom. I just remember her just being terrified for me.
Yeah, I can't imagine. So when you were still using, so prison was like rehab for you, huh? They have any services for
Yep.
you to kind of help you get a transition from meth user to non-meth user?
No. And this is something I don't think, and this is my personal experience and what I know to be true from others. Like coming down from meth, you're hungry and you want to sleep. Like it's not like heroin, you know, or pills where or even alcohol where like you can have tremors and like withdrawals and stuff. I mean, your biggest withdrawal from meth. I was never an IV user, you know, maybe that's why my experience was different. But it was just, I mean, I slept for 3 weeks. And then when I woke up, I ate everything and then I went back to sleep.
And they
So,
let you do that in prison.
oh yeah, they let you. There's not a whole lot of other things
Jail.
you do in prison. So you said
Prison, they had our asses up at 7 a.m. singing fucking Barney songs and shit during treatment. So
when you were just talking about you using,
you love me.
when you were just talking about you using, you said you didn't shoot up. So I'm assuming you were smoking. Did you start out smoking? I know a lot of people, you know, especially girls, they'll start out like eating it or something like that. How'd you get into it?
I always just smoked it.
Yeah.
And I never ate it. I never snorted it. I never put it in my vein. It was really, and some people listening probably won't believe me, but in the beginning, it was about the money.
Yeah. No, I believe it.
You know,
I mean,
yeah, I
especially
worked
at
for
that
the
age.
airlines at the time. Huh?
I said, especially at that age, you know, when you're young and you know people see opportunities. Holy shit, I can make a lot of money, and that's how a lot of people end up in that world. You know, the dream of hey, I'm going to have a big mansion from it and live this great life doesn't happen. I mean, to anybody, I did the job for 25 years and never saw it happen. But it does have its short little, you know, stint where people get to have a hell of a time.
So when you were
And
in,
that's what it was in the beginning. And it got miserable quick.
Yep.
well, so let's talk about jail time though. There's a lot of people. I mean, the only thing, I mean, you, for our listeners that don't know out there, you have quite a big Instagram and TikTok following, and you answer lots of questions on there. And a lot of people ask you questions that are kind of stupid. So we're not going to ask you those because we're not kind of stupid. But there's a lot of comparisons out there that the only thing that people know about some people, the only thing they know about females in prison is what they see on television. There's no real better or more popular representation of that than Orange is the New Black, right? So I'm sure
Right.
that you get kind of lumped into that thing, but just like everything else, I'm sure it's not all the same, correct?
Oh, it's not. And that's actually a comment on a lot of my videos. They're like, okay, Piper. Because in a way, when I went to prison, I was like her. I was like the person that everybody's like, what the fuck are you here for? Like, even like the guards and COs were like, they'd be like, Engel, like, why are you here? Like, what did you do? Because I'm well spoken, I'm educated, I'm not disrespectful. Like I'm very, personable. And that's just some, there are others. I wasn't like a unicorn by any means in there, but I would get that a lot. Like, why are you here? And the Orange is the New Black reference is, I believe the first season of that show is relatable. I believe that some of that first season is honest and it came from her reality, the lady that wrote the show. After the first season, it's all for TV. It's
Oh yeah.
it's shit.
So did you have to join a gang?
No.
You weren't in a gang in jail.
No.
Did you cook? Did you cook weird things in the microwave?
Yes. Yes, it did.
I like cooking, so tell me what you made in the microwave and what were your ingredients.
If you actually find my Instagram, I have a couple videos. I've done this cooking with felons thing. So there is like Oreo cake.
Okay.
All right.
Good.
You can crumble up. All right. So separate your Oreos, the white, the cream part, and then the brown part. Crush up your brown part. Put a little bit of Pepsi in it. Microwave it. It makes it spongy like cake.
Really?
Yes. Find the video, and then you take the cream part and with like caramel, and melt it, stir it, and that's your frosting. And then crumble candy bars on top. Put it in the freezer. Take it out. You got a cake.
So
and
how
it's delicious.
how do you get a freezer? I guess you were in like what was prison like? Let's kind of explain the scene. If you have a freezer, you got all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, prison's a lot better than jail. None of which are good, viewers. That's not what I'm saying. I don't recommend either experience, but prison's a lot easier than jail. So like my unit, it was the treatment unit. So it was like a big room with like little cubbies with two sets or 4 sets of bunk beds. 2 sets of bunk beds. Yeah. And it was all open. It was painted purple and glitter, like fucking Planet Fitness. It looked like Planet Fitness in there. It was, yeah, like people
$10 a month.
Like, yeah, people expect me to be like, I was banging on bars for food. I'm like, no, like we had a TV, we had treadmills, ellipticals.
It was a Planet Fitness.
Planet Fitness, like, and it painted just the same way. We had like a community fridge and freezer, and like every night everything would get thrown out. Like you couldn't like camp your shit in there, but you could cook. You had use of a microwave and a fridge and freezer. And they used to have crock pots, but people would get the water hot and then throw it on people. And so like the prison lost the privilege of using, the inmates lost the privilege of using crock pots. But you can have curling irons and straighteners in case you ever want to burn somebody's face off.
Hey.
Did you ever see that?
No, I just never understood why they could have those, but you couldn't have gum.
Oh, you could have a curling iron, but no gum, huh? Well, gum makes a mess. That's a problem with it.
They said you could stick the gum in a lock.
See, I was thinking like you girls would be putting each other's hair and having to cut the hair off, stuff like that. But yeah, I guess that is a problem.
I mean, I'm going to burn somebody with a curling iron before I put gum in their hair. It's crazy.
Tell me tell me a crazy story from prison that you were involved in. Did you get any fights? You don't look like much of a fighter.
I dated a guard.
Oh.
In prison, before prison, after prison?
Very end, tail end, almost lost my parole over it. The relationship carried into after like I got out, and then almost got rearrested over it.
Wow. Was it a he, the guard?
Yes.
So let's start. You're in prison and you end up serving a total of 20 months, right? Okay. And
yes.
So, and this started at the tail end. And how does this start? I mean, I understand there's not a lot of dudes around, and the only dudes are guards, and you're like, it's been like 18 months, and that guy, he's not the cutest, but he'll do, right? Is that kind of the way that works?
And we're back to season 1 of Orange is the New Black, right?
Go ahead and put this out there. He was cute. He was, and that's why the first season I believe is kind of believable in a way. So my job in the prison, because I was low risk, is I did floors. So like I would run the floor buffer, like wax the floors, clean the floors, whatever. I got after I was done with the treatment, I pretty much had free reign of the prison to clean floors. So I could go out at night while everybody was sleeping. And it started that way. It started like going into the units that he was over. and like we'd have to do head count, and I forget, it was like in the morning, in the afternoon, and then like before bed. Head count. They make sure everybody's still in the prison.
Okay, good enough. Just doing a card thing.
But that's just where it started, and it got to where, we started talking about like meeting up when I got out, and it turned into, notes in the closet and subliminal messages and so on and so forth. And people started picking up on it. And at the time I was terrified I was going to lose my parole, because I'm like, like I knew I was doing something wrong, but in reality, like I probably would not have lost my parole. He would have lost his job and ended up on the sex offender registry.
Oh yeah. I mean, it falls under a rape category typically.
Yep.
If that type of deal where somebody who's in a position of authority involves, even if a consensual sexual relationship like that, it does fall under rape.
Huh.
So when I got out, when I got out, like our relationship carried on, and I got a call from the Department of Corrections because he was, I'm not even like being conceited. Like he was handsome. He was probably the most handsome one there. And I caught a lot of shitty attitudes for it. It's you. Out of the two of you, it's you, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm the pretty one. Sean's just here to grow hair on his head.
And so it came up like, is this true? And I was like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I mean, I knew for a fact that there was nothing that was provable. It was just hearsay. Boys, go away. And I don't know, like that was enough that it freaked him out, and he left, quit his job, left. I've not seen him since, but it was pretty intense while it was going on, while I was in prison, because it's super sneaky. It was super wrong. There was a lot at risk.
Did it make it hot though?
Yeah.
Yeah. So where were the meeting locations, the rendezvous points, while you were there? And listen, I don't want to get anybody. I mean, if you're willing to say it, we're all for it. But if that's your business, that's your business.
Nothing physical. There was like a kiss that happened while I was in the prison.
Okay.
Otherwise, nothing physical happened. But there was definitely places where we would cross and talk, because there's the guards that are out on the grounds, and then there's all the cameras, there's all the eyes, and then people watching those cameras. So it was like being careful of that, aside from the fact that being in prison with 600 women,
mm-hmm.
You don't even have to do anything, and somebody will make up a that you did. Oh, it's horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah, working on
a
unit with like
if I was gay
women.
Yeah, that's why when people ask me if I was gay for the stay, I'm like, you live with 600 women and tell me if you want a girlfriend. You probably don't.
I'd probably, if I live with 600 women, I'd probably go gay. The other way. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Exactly. That's my point.
I'd find Matt Walker and we'd have a happy relationship.
That's his old college buddy.
Yeah, we would be real good friends.
Okay, so Heather, you end up having a shitload of time. I mean, would you say 165 years? I think something like that. Does that sound right? And then you end up
135.
135,
I think at one point
165. What? No difference. A lot.
Still terrifying.
Yeah, and you end up only doing 20 months. How did the sentence get reduced down to that?
So when I was originally charged, and I didn't understand this at the time. Again, I had not been through the criminal system at all. So they basically stacked my charges. I had a conspiracy, possession with intent, 2 Class Bs, and tax stamp violation, and something else. There was like 4 or 5 charges total, which equated to 135 years. And then basically they do that so that something sticks one way or another. And because I had not been in trouble before, I ended up pleading down to a Class C felony, which was a 10-year sentence. And then from there, it was cut in half by the state and then cut in a third by the prison because it's overpopulated. So it ended up being a mandatory of 18 months, but my parole came up during the holidays and they made me sit. So I ended up being 20 months. So
you spent the holidays in prison making Oreo cake.
I was pissed. I was pissed. My parole date was supposed to be like October, or like, I'm sorry, like November 1st or something. I was like, hell yeah, like I'm gonna be home for Thanksgiving and Christmas dinner and all that. And they were like, that's the biggest time for people to relapse. And they made me sit till January 16th. I was
Did your Prince Charming guard, did he give you did you get a Christmas gift from him? A little extra, side of turkey for Thanksgiving? Nothing.
More
No.
Oreos.
Oh,
Hey,
I know,
so-
he's a loser.
We have about 10 minutes left. Tell us what you're doing now. Tell us, here's my question. Was prison good for you, or was it, obviously it was bad, but did it help?
Prison was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I will stand by that to the day I die. It gave me the time and place to reflect on all of my issues. And, I learned very quickly that my addiction was to my relationship with that man more than it was an actual substance. I would have never figured that out without prison. I would have never figured that out without that alone time. It was the best thing that could have happened.
That's pretty healthy there.
Yeah, it is funny. There are a bunch of bad codependent relationships, and obviously yours was at a level that resulted in you and him going to prison. But there's a lot of people, if they can just date somebody else and break that chain, get away from somebody, man, it's amazing how different life can be for people.
And I know we only got a couple minutes, but I remember he had cheated on me millions and millions of times, and the girl that he always seemed to cheat on me with came through prison. And at the time, him and I were like communicating via emails, and we were going to get back together when I got out, and everything was supposed to be great. And then I remember her saying something to me along the lines of, him and I are talking, and I remember just being like, this is what I have waiting for me. And I remember going in to the computer room and typing out this big long email, and I remember one tear coming down my face. After I clicked send, ended everything, never spoke to him again. That's when my life changed.
Good for you.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
So what are you doing now?
So I actually own and I'm getting ready to open a business in Knoxville, Tennessee. It's called the Knox Selfie Lab. It's a social media, Instagram worthy museum for spots. And then I also run a horse dog rescue nonprofit.
Oh, that's awesome. What's the name of that nonprofit?
Yeah. Freedom Valley Rescue.
And I assume
Live life.
they can find you on the internet at this as well, correct?
All of it. Freedom Valley Rescue on all platforms.
Hey, something? You had a great video and you talked about when people come out of prison, what kind of job should they get? Where do they? And you had some pretty interesting things. As a guest, Sean doesn't know this, so I'm asking, what do you think she did when she got out of prison as a job?
Worked at a dog rescue.
That's not it. She went and joined. Tell them what you did.
International Union of Operating Engineers, working on track hose on mainline pipelines through the United States.
That was my next guess.
I don't. It would have never been my guess. You don't look like a pipeline worker.
I also supposedly don't look like somebody that's gone to prison, so I'm just full of fucking surprises.
Absolutely.
This is true.
It wasn't the pipeline that was shut down when we changed presidents, was it?
That's we're not talking politics, so
No, I'm not talking. That wasn't a political jab. I mean, that was just a very well-known pipeline that people lost jobs about.
But you said if you're, I think what you said about a good place for people to go once they get out of prisons is to find a union, and that they're more understanding and will teach you a trade.
They will, and it's almost like a prerequisite that you have to be a felon.
Really?
And it's good paying. You don't have debt. When my first year in the operators union, I cleared 90, almost $100,000. I would have never made that working at McDonald's, like everybody in prison told me I was basically destined to do. I tell that to women: join a union. If you can withstand it, get in there, learn a trade, welding, plumbing, pipe fitting, steam fitters, electrician, operators. I mean, get in a union.
Yeah, here in Tulsa, they've got Tulsa Welding School, and there are people that come from across the country to attend this school. And there are a lot of guys that I've dealt with throughout my career that early on dealing with them gangsters, bad guys, and you run into them later, and that's what they're doing. Like, oh man, I'm a welder now. They went to prison, they got out, they're welding, they're making a good living, and they're not out there hustling anymore. But like you said, it's a hell of a lot better than some of these other, minimum wage jobs. That these guys think that's the only thing that they're going to be able to do, and so they go right back to hustling and selling dope again.
Yeah, I think that's kind
And
of.
yep, that's the prison system's fault. That's the judicial system's fault. That's literally, when I was in prison, I remember I considered myself a middle child. I was there long enough that I could have done something, but I wasn't there long enough to take advantage of the stuff that they had. So I couldn't get in classes because I wasn't going to be there long enough. But yeah, I was still kicked out onto the street with the same tick on my record, and it basically is like you're gonna be a waitress your whole life. You're gonna go work in factories that hire all of the felons that come out of the prison. So now you're just surrounded by, statistically, you're bound to relapse or get in trouble hanging out with people like that, because statistically a lot of people go back, or they, the recidivism, all of that. So it was very eye-opening. I was like, hell yeah, I'm making this kind of money, not selling drugs. It's not illegal. I'm, I bought a home. I bought a nice truck. I paid off everything I owed to the state of Iowa. Fucking deuces to them. Like, got all my shit back, got nice things. Like, I was like, this never happened, selling drugs. And I try so hard to tell people that, like, but you also have to be able to, be willing to work. I mean, it's not just a handout.
Yeah, working out in the oil field is not easy for anyone, even if you're in a traco. It's that traco stuff gets broken. You got to move it around. That's work for sure. Well, with your animal rescue, you're rescuing horses, right?
Yes. I've got 7.
So you guys accept donations for those horses? Is that where that comes from?
We do, and I am actually struggling right now. So any donations that anybody would be willing to make would be amazing. I have talked to Southern Comfort, and I'm working with them, and I'm working with Blanton's Bourbon, trying to get them on to help. So
it's up there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that one.
They've got a little horse at the top of their bottle.
Yeah, they'd love to do that.
I'm trying. All of my horses are named after alcohol. I've got brandy, tequila, bourbon, Kahlua, and then I got Caesar, which is the Canadian Bloody Mary, and an Old Henry.
You don't have Apple Crown, I hope, right?
No.
Not yet.
Because you'd have to put that. No, that horse would have to go out to the pasture.
Hey man, when I bought vodka, I went by Park Hill. He had a huge thing of Crown.
I was actually Howard and I went to a concert last night and saw a guy by the name of Benjamin Todd. Fantastic guy.
Yeah,
check him out. Fantastic guy out of Kentucky. But that's what somebody came up to me, I guess a listener of the podcast, and he was like, "Hey man, can I buy you a shot of Apple Crown?" I was like, "Get your ass out of here!" Absolutely not.
It's awful.
Yeah.
Well, Heather, we really appreciate you coming on today. Thanks for your insight. We'll plug you on our social media.
Absolutely.
Not that you need it. I mean, it's the billions of followers that you have and everything. But we'll make sure that we
want to talk shit to me.
Yeah, people do talk shit, don't they?
There's a lot of shit talking on the internet. Yes, it's
so bad.
It is. It's horrible.
What's Sean's favorite thing to see? Hey, why don't you just go ahead and unfollow? I'm sure both of us will be on.
Yeah, if you don't like it, just hit that unfollow button. We'll both be okay.
Yeah, so he'll do
My
that.
thing is getting people to engage in a fight and then being like, your 17 comments that you just posted just boosted this video right into the algorithm. Thank you. And then they're just gone.
Yep.
Then they're gone after that.
Yep.
That's it, huh? Well, again, we appreciate having you here today. Good luck with the horse racing or the horse rescuing. Yeah, of course. And if you get hooked up with Blanton's, let us know. We'll come hang out with you because we like Blanton's a lot. We'll drink that for sure.
Yeah, and Heather, hey, seriously, big kudos to you for, like I said, turning your life around. A lot of people don't get to that point, so good for you.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
This was fun.
All right,
All right, bye guys.
Bye.